Hi, and welcome to another episode of Can't Stop the Growth. I'm your host, Chad Peterman. Today, we're going to be looking at some audio from one of our Future Leaders Series meetings here at Peterman Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, where we discuss topics on leadership, personal development, and things of that nature. One of the things that we talked about during this particular episode was in reference to a book by Ray Dalio, who runs one of the largest and most successful hedge funds in the world, in his book, Principles. And two of the things that I took after reading that I shared, where we talk about leaving your ego at the door and radical open-mindedness. So without further ado, let's jump on into the audio. To get started, the book, as I mentioned, that I've been reading, actually just finished up here probably mid last week, is a book called Principles by Ray Dalio. And this book is kind of his overview of, it's broken into three parts, basically kind of his story from starting in his upstairs bedroom to running one of the largest hedge funds in the world. So it kind of depicts his story, then it goes into some personal principles, and then more so how he's transformed his business into what it is today. In one of the sections early on in the personal side, he touches on two principles that I believe strongly in, and something that I think as a leader, someone who wants to become a leader, and really just leaders in our own lives, these are extremely, extremely important. The first is the concept of leaving your ego at the door. Obviously, ego has a lot of probably negative connotations when you think of the word ego. When you think of that, it's often someone who's full of themselves, or oh, that person, they think they're always right, or he's got a big ego, or whatever it may be. And really, it's important to remember that all of us have ego in some way, shape, or form. That is the way we are wired. We are wired to seek out the right answer. We're wired to really engage in activities where we can be successful and to seek out different things like that. So we are, in essence, every day fighting against our ego. And oftentimes what ego does is it prevents growth. When you think about it, if we allow our ego to get in the way each and every day, we're going to fail to grow. I say that because if your ego's in the way, you're often going to tell yourself, well, I'm right, I don't need to change, I don't need to get any better, I don't need to come this morning. For people who may have thought about coming and then didn't, undoubtedly, and not in a bad way, but there's probably a little bit of ego there, basically weighing not coming versus coming, and what you're going to get out of that. So there again, we have to deal with it. There's nothing to be scared of. It is what it is. Ego is there. It will always be there. It's just a matter of how we deal with it. Do we set it to the side and ultimately understand that the place we are at right now, where ego may get in the way and say that we're fine, we're good, I don't need to learn anymore, we can always learn more. We can always get better, meaning that where we are today is not the optimal place. So understanding that while your ego is telling you that you are optimal, I don't need to grow, I don't need to learn, the truth is we can always learn. We can always get better, regardless of what it is that we do. And that is, to me, kind of that big hurdle in jumping over and always seeking out growth, always looking for the next challenge, always wanting to better ourselves, whether it's personally, whether it's as a leader, whether it's in our career, whether it's as a parent, whatever that may be, there is always something out there that we can seek out to get better, to utilize. I see this a lot in some of the training that we do. So obviously, Nexstar is a big part of our business, and they teach a certain philosophy and teach a certain system and this, that, or the other. And there again is all of their stuff. Are there better ways to do it? Yeah, I think they'd probably be the first to tell you that they're learning things all the time. It amazes me personally how much they change their curriculum. Literally and they'll even tell you, literally every 2 years you should go back through the classes they put on because they're putting so much new content. They're learning from people out that are doing it day in, day out, saying, hey, we found something that works better. Hey, we found something that helps the customer a little bit better than what you first laid out. And so they are always growing. And the one thing that I see in our business is trying to get that training to people, but then at the same time teaching that ego piece. Obviously we have a ton of people who have a ton of experience in this industry, and it's a lot about, okay, how can we get that person who has all this experience and has done this for a long time to be open to possibly there may be a newer way or a small tweak that they can make to something that they do currently. And a lot of that is just removing that ego, getting that out of the equation so that we can move forward and progress to that optimal level. Ego is another thing that oftentimes can prevent us from being hungry to grow, being hungry to improve when we think that we're good where we're at. So, obviously, a lot of this has to do with the second principle that he talks about, and is something that we often have trouble with, and that is radical open-mindedness. So, obviously, being open to change, being open to getting better, we also have to be open-minded at the same time. Open-mindedness looks to unlock that part of the brain that allows us to overcome that ego. Being open to new ideas, being open to change. For me, this is something that, for one reason or another, I was thinking about, after I read this, I was thinking about just kind of my own kind of personal journey and how kind of open-mindedness has played a key role. And for whatever reason, I can't really pinpoint when I became kind of open-minded, and then have worked to kind of develop that into that radical open-mindedness. But what I can tell you is that in our business, I think that anybody who has worked here for maybe even a short time understands that we are constantly changing, constantly. And when we kind of first started with a lot of change, which was probably back in around 15, 14, we started radically changing and implementing and trying new things and putting process in place. There was a lot of pushback. There was a lot of pushback in that, well, what's wrong with the way that we do it? Well, what's wrong with this process that we've had in place for umpteen dozen years? Well, we've always done it like this. And there's a lot of things that, yeah, we still do the exact same as we did back in 2000. But there's also a lot of stuff that we've changed, and we've changed because I think that our open-mindedness allowed us to let new ideas in, let those practices, principles, process that could make us a better organization, that could provide better service for customers. And I think this is key, not only in an organization, but also when you look from the perspective of leadership. And when you are a leader, my biggest thing and what I always preach against is being a leader is not being a dictator. We're not coming and yelling out decrees from on high, as in this is the way that it needs to be done and has to be done and this, that, and the other. Are there process? Yes. But to me, as a leader, you become extremely, extremely powerful when you have the ability to admit that you're wrong, and not all even admit you're wrong, but just admit that there may be a better way, or someone may have a better idea, or this idea, by incorporating it, could make us actually stronger. And it's kind of, leadership flipped on its head is, well, I'm the leader, I'm up here, and here's all my people underneath me, and I need to tell them what to do. Whereas if we look at it, and I've talked about this before, as the leader being below, people that you're serving up top, and it's how do I use my open-mindedness to push this group forward, to provide for this group. And when you make that flip on kind of the leadership spectrum, obviously, as we talked about first, ego, you got to drop that. That's going to only get in your way. If you think that because someone put me and gave me the title of manager, someone gave me the title of in charge of this group of people, that all of a sudden my ideas are all knowing and unbelievable, you're going to struggle mightily, because that's not the case. And wherever you are as a leader, as a manager, at that very moment, as we said, you're not optimal. You're still moving. You're on a journey as well, along with the people that you're trying to help along their journey. So the open-mindedness, I think, is a struggle mainly because it's uncomfortable. I think everyone, if we had our wish, it'd be a lot easier to just be where we're at, to just be here, not continually pushing ourselves outside of our limits, outside of what is viewed as comfortable. And where we find the most growth is in that discomfort. I always think of working out or running or something like that. Well, no one ever got in shape by sitting on the couch. Difficult. Even with those, I know they've came out with things that you supposedly can, or whatever it may be, but I've never seen that quite work. And the same thing goes for as we're trying to become a better technician, a better leader, a better sales, whatever it may be that you're trying to get better at. The true growth comes with discomfort. I always think about when our technicians take in Nexstar, and it's a different process. There's a lot of discomfort. I've been running calls the same way for this amount of years, and now you're telling me that I need to implement this stuff in there. So I picture a technician going up to a homeowner and that conversation being difficult, like, I don't want to, this isn't natural. I don't want to, this feels awkward. But it's those conversations, it's those asking questions, it's those stepping out of your comfort zone that's ultimately going to help you and hopefully help the customer too. Because you may start asking questions that you've never asked before that uncovers a need or a problem in their home that you could fix. And that's the scary part. Our ego is ultimately what keeps us safe. That's why it's wired into the brain, because our brain is naturally trying to keep us all safe, and comfortable. Well, breaking outside of that, it's important to remember you're fighting against what your brain naturally wants to do, and that's the only way that you grow. That's the only way that you get better. And I think I understand it may be a little bit weird to think about it like that, but that is one thing that has really helped me, is understand that I essentially, on a daily basis, am fighting against my brain. My brain wants to keep sleeping. My brain wants to, just relax on the couch. That is how we're wired. We want to stay comfortable. But, and that's why I'm such a huge proponent of journaling in the morning. that's where I set my mind right for the day. Because ultimately, if I didn't do that, my day could trail off into umpteen different directions. But it's where I set my mind straight. Here's the deal. I get it. You're tired. You want to go back to sleep. It would be really nice just to fall over and fall back asleep on this couch that you're sitting on right now. But that's not where I'm going to get better. That's not what my end goal is. And it's very difficult to set high goals, to set high standards, knowing or not knowing, I guess I should say, that you are going to have to fight against what is comfortable each and every day. And I'll talk a little bit about that in the second half when it comes to goals and kind of understanding what's going on up here and how it's trying to, unfortunately, derail us from where we want to go. But that's what goals are about. That's what getting better is about. It's difficult. It's not easy. And to me, these two principles of understanding that ego piece of your brain that wants to keep you safe, that wants to keep you right where you're at, that wants to tell you that you're great, that's going to be something you're going to have to fight against. And the best way to do that is to take that open-mindedness and utilize it. Understand that there's a big wide world out there, and there are a lot of people that are experiencing things on a daily basis that you can use, you can learn from. You know, that's why I love reading, because reading essentially, I look at Ray Dalio, who built a multi-billion-dollar company. Well, I can utilize what he learned. Are there things in that book that I would have never thought of, or well, I don't know how that would work, but my willingness to be open-minded about, well, maybe it could, or well, that's a unique way to look at it. Maybe that helps us in some way. Maybe that helps me. There again, there's a bunch of ways to do this, and it's about really digging in and finding out, where you want to go and what you want to do, and how we need to overcome our internal wiring to get there is the biggest piece that I have found. A couple of last things on this is in regards to leadership and how these tie into that. There are a lot of, obviously, positions within our company, and not all of those, would be viewed or are looked at maybe from an outside perspective, or if you're just kind of looking down on the organization as a true, quote-unquote, leadership position. So obviously, every organization has managers and this, that, and the other, and they've got people that report to them, and that's all well and great. What I have seen, though, is two things. One, from that manager's perspective, the best ones that I have seen within our organization, and then obviously other people that I have come in contact with and different stuff like that, they understand these two things very, very well. They understand that there's a bunch of different ways to do things, and sometimes as a leader, the best thing that you can do is exercise your open-mindedness by empowering someone through acceptance of their idea, through trying something that they think may work. Because ultimately, what do you have to lose? Nothing, in my mind. So I am a huge proponent of, if someone has an idea and they want to try something, and usually people know my answer. Sure, let's go for it. Let's see what we can do. Because really we have nothing to lose. If we think about it, on a daily basis, we're always trying ideas that we don't know if they're going to work. We don't know if this is the best way to do it. But right now, this is the idea that we got, and we can go and move forward with it. So always keep that in mind as a leader. you can really do a whole lot by just being open-minded to the ideas of the people on your team, to the ideas of what's going on. That's why the surveys that we've sent out in the last 2 company meetings, I've got a ton of ideas. Heck, I've already got started on a few of them. I've got a big one that is kind of crazy to think about, but apparently everybody and their brother wants an ice machine. So what are we doing? We're getting an ice machine. All of these ideas that people have that they're good. That more brains thinking on the same problem of how do we make this place better is a whole lot more better than just me coming up with this, that, and the other. So there again, just being open-minded to how we can do that. And then I think another key is your ability to lead from wherever you are in the organization. So the big thing here is if we can get even people that are not in a quote-unquote leadership role, if we can get them to be leaders, we're going to be a really, really powerful organization. And what I mean by that is, there again, we're all fighting against our ego. We're all challenged with being open-minded. And if we can get people at all levels of the organization to fight their own ego and to be open-minded to ideas that are brought forth, we're going to be able to change very, very fast. Sometimes the holdup in change is trying to get the buy-in of everybody in the organization. Well, essentially what you're doing is you're fighting against open-mindedness, and you're fighting against people's ego of, well, we do it this way now and it works fine. Or, well, I've been doing it this way for years, or whatever that objection is, wherever that ego is popping up is what we're fighting. And so it's important as leaders and then as just people of a whole with a collective goal of making this place better, of doing our job better, of doing a better job for the customer, that if we can exert these 2 things, we're going to be really, really powerful. And we continue to move in this direction and continue to find people who are less resistant to change and want to do better and want to try new ideas and want to bring things to the table. There is nothing that makes my day than someone coming to me with an idea of how we can do something different, how we can do something better, or hey, I think this process works better this way. Awesome. Let's put it into action. Let's go try it. Let's go make something happen. So keep those things in mind as far as, you're always kind of fighting against yourself. You want to stay comfortable and stay in the place that you're at. And then open-mindedness is tough. It's not easy because there again, that ego gets in the way of the things that we know to be true, the things that we think are true. So keep those things in mind as you continue to set goals, as you continue to move forward and continue to better yourself. You've got some hurdles there, but identifying them is the first step in moving past them.